Let's start with Chicago. So back in Chicago, so did you know that Chicago is experiencing a population decline for the eighth straight year? But not only is Chicago experiencing a population decline for the eighth straight year, also, where are these people moving? Well, guess what? They're moving down south to Texas in particular. Let's take a look. Let's get into it again. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. If you have not already, make sure you join the Bag Chasers. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's get to it.
Chicago is in real danger of losing its status as the third largest city in the U.S. Census Bureau numbers released today show our population is dropping, but Houston, Texas is on the rise and could overtake the Windy City. If that happens, it could have a big impact on you. NBC5's Randy Gyllenhaal has the key takeaways on the population race.
They are plates from all famous restaurants in Italy.
Longtime Chicagoan Stuart Grannon travels the world hunting rare and incredible items.
We deal in very high-end artifacts and antiques.
For 37 years, Architectural Artifacts kept its collection here in Chicago. But today, the building is a pickleball court after his business moved to Texas.
Texas has been very, very good to us. We've been there for almost a year now.
New census data out today shows Texas surging in population. In a decade, Houston could overtake Chicago as the third largest city.
Housing and job opportunities. And it's pretty simple that Texas and many other southern and western states throughout the United States are making those opportunities more available.
While Chicago and Illinois both losing population for the eighth year, if that's true, it could impact tax revenue and cost us another congressional seat.
That poll has been inaccurate for the state of Illinois.
Cap. That is 1,000% cap. That poll is accurate, and census data prove it. And for the eighth straight year, Illinois and Chicago is experiencing a mass exodus. Now, it's a couple different takeaways from this as we go over into Texas, and we're going to talk about the population explosion over in Texas, right? A couple different takeaways from this. The first takeaway is that when people leave Chicago, right, and then they go down to places like Texas, because Texas is basically the safe haven, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, the Carolinas. A lot of those places are the safe havens for people that leave the city of Chicago. The one thing that Texans are complaining about is that they're basically turning their state over into the state that they came from. So it's not enough to just leave. A lot of times you bring your voting habits with you. You bring your bad habits with you. You bring your crime with you. You bring a lot of things with you when you go over into a different state. And that's one of the reasons that some of these cities and some of these states are complaining that you are going there. So if you go there, similar to going to another country, because going to another state is like going over into another culture. If you go there, then you have to start being sensitive to the people that already live there. It's like going into a new neighborhood, right? You go into a new neighborhood, you can take the person out of the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out of the person. And it's the same thing with voting habits and all of that. And so the people over there in Texas and in the southern states are basically complaining that you are taking your ways with you, even though Chicago is suffering the population decline. Now, how does that hurt Chicago? Well, everything, because you still have the same costs. And how do I know this? Because it was the same thing that Detroit experienced, which ironically enough, this was the first year that Detroit is actually experiencing a stop and then an incline in its population. We're actually growing in population, right? And so first you got to stop the bleeding, and then you have to start to grow the city again by actually doing things that are conducive for the people that live there and then making it available as far as the jobs and the schooling. You got to start improving on infrastructure and growing. So my point is that I already see Chicago over the next 10 to 20 years basically becoming a city that practically goes bankrupt, especially if you have another pandemic or you have another issue, because they already operating at a deficit. They operating at a deficit. They losing population. They raising all of the taxes on the people. and the people are not getting nothing as a result of it. The police officers is down by 2,000. And so basically they're saying that Chicago could possibly lose its title of being the third largest city to Houston and then continue to decline in population. Let me hear what J.B. Pritzker has to say.
We've gone to the Census Bureau and told them how inaccurate this clearly is.
Sure doesn't feel like population drop here in Chicago. Foot traffic is back to where it was. Highway traffic feels horrible. And ask people around here, they say Chicago is not Texas.
I wouldn't want to leave. I love Chicago, and I just love all the food and all the different neighborhoods, how walkable the city is.
Reporting downtown, Randy Gyllenhaal, NBC 5 News.
I don't know. If I had to pick between living in Houston and Chicago, I'm not sure where I would actually go and live. I'm really not, because I would probably pick Houston, but that's only because a lot of my friends is down there. On the flip side, this is a sentiment over in Texas as far as the different cities that are growing around Houston and in Texas itself.
New numbers from the United States Census Bureau proving what plenty of us already know. Lots of people are moving to Texas in droves, in fact. Since 2020.
Somebody said what happened at Stock Club this past weekend. I had a lot going on, so I had to move it over to Wednesday. It's actually pinned to the top of the chat. Check it out.
Lone Star State has added some 1.3 million residents. So what you were thinking is true. Fort Worth saw one of the biggest population jumps, up 21,000 in just the last year. But if you've driven through,
a lot of people. The Dallas-Fort Worth area, Fort Worth in particular, 21,000 people moved to Fort Worth alone. Look at all of those houses. Yo, look at all of those cookie cutter houses and those cul-de-sacs and subdivisions that got HOA fees, and they throwing them houses up so fast. It ain't no character to it. It ain't no customization to it. People are literally just running into these cities and renting and buying these houses because everybody said that everybody is down there in Fort Worth, Houston, Dallas, Austin, and some of the most liberal cities. And you know they coming to Houston. You know they going to Fort Worth. You know they going to Dallas. Look at all of those cookie cutter subdivisions, these mini McMansions. I can't wait till there's a housing crisis so I can go and buy them all up from y'all that overspent on them.
Denton or Collin counties lately, and you've seen housing development after housing development being built, you know that the growth is even faster there. Let me hit you with those numbers. In fact, 5 of the fastest growing U.S. cities are right here in North Texas. That includes Forney taking the number 10 spot, Prosper number 9, Anna number 4, Princeton number 3, Salina. You guys are all at the top on this, the number 1 fastest growing city in our entire country. Salina's population, by the way, climbed at a rate roughly 53 times the national average in the last year.
So everybody is moving to Texas. They're moving away from Chicago. And then I was surprised because at the same time, with all of the growth that we experiencing in the city, I was surprised because we've been experiencing a population decline for so long. But now I see an influx of people actually starting to move back into the city. And then this report recently came out, and I was like, really?
Today, the city of Detroit is marking a milestone, and it's a big one.
According to estimates, Detroit's population grew for the first time in decades. Between 2022 and 2023, city gaining 1,852 people, going from 631,000 to 633,000. Okay, small gain. Speaking in trend terms, massive development. Let's get to Damon Fernandez live downtown. Damon has more.
Yeah, Devin, you better believe this is a pretty big deal for the city. Not only are people here talking about it, that Detroit population growth, they're talking about it abroad as well, and that's a big thing. There's a lot of positive momentum around the city of Detroit, and right now it's the city's population surge that's catching the country's attention and making national, even international headlines.
With the population boom that's coming now, is making everybody feel more happy, I guess, you know what I'm saying?
Even neighbors like Demetrius Martin of Detroit's east side say they're noticing growth in areas like the Ravendale community.
It's a house down the street that's like $250,000 in this neighborhood, and it's like.
And I've never seen that before in my entire life. And certain parts of the community and stuff like that, it's so tripped out because I'm looking at the population increase and I see a lot of people coming into the city, and it's a lot of people that move here. I was talking to a lady yesterday. Was it yesterday or was it the day before yesterday? I was talking to a lady on the street and she was saying that she's from Chicago. She moved here with her fiance because they was originally living down in D.C. and then they moved back here because he's originally from here. And they were saying that, oh man, we can't wait to continue to grow with it. We bought at the perfect time and stuff. And I was just like, Where are all of y'all coming from? I see some neighborhoods that was at one point when I was coming up, they were designated as like, the hood. And now I see it completely wiped out, and it's now, all of the abandoned homes was tore down. Now it's completely being regentrified, and they building a whole bunch of homes over there, and they selling them for $250,000 and $300,000. And I'm like, man, it was just houses that was going for $1,000. They was giving those houses away for $500 to $1,000 over there, and now they basically selling them for $250,000, $300,000. And it's like, I can't believe so many people missed out. Cannot believe so many people missed out on that boom.
Whoa, dang.
The U.S. Census Bureau has been crunching the numbers. It estimates about 631,366 people called Detroit home back in 2022. 1 year later, the city's population grew to 633,218 residents.
I think most of the country is cheering for us.
Mayor Mike Duggan says while there's been consistent growth over the past few years, that near 1,900 increase in population over 1 year is rather significant.
It's really good that we finally got the population officially going the right direction.
And the population increase comes as the city is celebrating some positive community gains. Over the past 5 years, the city's invested more than $1 billion into about 4,600 affordable housing units. Making housing more accessible has been a huge city initiative.
We're trying to get more people involved in different things to better our community.
Now, when it comes to vacant and abandoned eyesores in some neighborhoods, the city's already demolished more than 6,000 structures, and they're already on target to do even more.
Of course, we've had the Jeep plant come to the city. We've had Ford Motor Company renovating the train station. We've got a spectacular river walk that's been built over the last 10 or 15 years.
And the mayor told me there are a lot of factors playing into this positive news about Detroit's population growth. He told me one thing that he's particularly happy about is the construction of the new convention hotel downtown. He says that'll open the doors for even more visitors to come and visit this growing city.
So anyways, populations is shifting all across the United States of America. One of the things that I am wondering is if this immigrant wave that's going into a lot of these sanctuary cities, if that's one of the reasons that they're actually trying to use in order to stem the population decline. And so they get these people over here, amongst other things, obviously, but one of the factors is they get these people over here, and then, they get them visas or they get them work visas, and they become a part of the fabric of whatever city that's experiencing a population decline in order to replace a lot of the people that's wind up moving to a lot of these other cities, such as the Houstons, the Texas, the Nashvilles, the Carolinas, and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm going to keep my eye on that. I'm very much curious about why that's playing out the way that it's playing. So we're going to see what happens. We'll absolutely see what happens and pay attention to what's happening out in these streets. You know what I'm saying?